What's up guys, Romsko here, and today we're reviewing the Keychron K3, which is their newest keyboard featuring low-profile mechanical switches. So let's dive right into the design. The Keychron K3 is a 75% low-profile keyboard with low-profile switches with low-profile keycaps. It has quite the monotone aesthetic that helps it blend in with pretty much any setup, so it's a very versatile design choice. We have an aluminum top plate that also acts as the frame, while underneath we have a light plastic shell with almost no branding whatsoever. On the bottom we also have some rubber feet for traction, and you do get a slight incline for a better typing angle. But if you prefer a flatter typing angle, there are extra rubber feet provided to replace the taller feet. On the backside we have two sliders, one to address the operating system and one to address the connection type. And of course we have the USB-C port and the battery indicator in the middle. So yes, this keyboard does have Bluetooth 5.1 connectivity, and you can connect up to 3 devices at once. By holding function and either of these 3 keys, you can connect to 1 device per key. And by pressing function and any of these 3 keys afterwards, you can easily switch from device to device. So this keyboard is great for anyone who needs to use a keyboard when using multiple devices at the exact same time. And although this is a Bluetooth keyboard, you can still use it wired. When it comes to the battery life, it has a 1550 mAh battery, and it takes around 3 hours to fully charge the keyboard. Even with RGB on, it should last you quite a few days before you need to recharge it again. Besides, you can charge it and use it wired at the exact same time, so power shouldn't be a problem. But if you have a full wireless setup, no need to worry, this keyboard does go into auto sleep mode after 10 minutes, so you don't have to worry about the battery draining after leaving it on your desk. Moving to the switches, as mentioned before, this does use low profile switches, so the overall height is quite short, but it makes it much easier to put in your backpack since the thickness doesn't take up too much space. So this keyboard has 2 versions. You can either choose the Gateron low profile mechanical switches, or you can choose the exclusive Keychron low profile optical switches that are also hot swappable. And if you want to know the difference between mechanical and optical, you can check out this video right here. So we have Gateron low profile switches available in 3 versions with the same actuation and bottom out distance. And they're rated at 50 million keystrokes just like any mechanical switch. Meanwhile, the Keychron optical switches have 6 options to choose from, and they all have a shorter actuation and bottom out distance than the mechanical switches. They're also slightly lighter than the mechanical counterparts and are rated for 70 million keystrokes. The optical switches do actuate faster than your mechanical switches thanks to the 0.2 millisecond ultra low latency, and that should theoretically give you an upper hand when it comes to gaming. Unfortunately, the optical switches of the K3 uses exclusively Keychron switches, so you can't use any other switches on the market. But since you have so many switches to choose from already, it's not really a big deal here. Now when it comes to the typing experience, it's really nice and relatively quiet compared to your typical mechanical keyboard. For me, I'm someone who loves a good thok when bottoming out my switches, and I like a good amount of travel, so these switches aren't really my preference. But if you're someone who likes mechanical switches but you don't like that excessive noise and would rather have shorter travel, this is the perfect keyboard for you. So for this K3, I have the optical red switches, and I think they're the best switch for gaming. These switches also have an MX stem, so it is compatible with majority of the keycaps on the market. Now since these are optical switches, you can easily take them out of the board and lube them if you want to. This keyboard does come with a keycap puller and a switch puller if you are down for the challenge. I will say that taking them out is a little more difficult than a traditional switch because it doesn't have an edge to pull on. But if you get yourself a Gateron switch puller like this one right here, it's as easy as pushing the column down, pulling it up, and out pops the switch. If you want to know how to lube the Keychron optical switches, you can check out my video right here when it's complete to show you the full process. But for now, let's listen to the stock typing test. So with that typing test, you probably felt that the spacebar didn't sound too great because it rattled quite a bit. And what's interesting about this keyboard is that the stabilizers look like they're lubed from the factory, and technically they are. But the location where they put the lube does absolutely nothing to reduce stabilizer rattle, so that little bit of lube that they put on is actually useless. So unless you go in and lube the stabilizers yourself, the typing sound isn't going to be too great right out of the box. And here's what it sounds like after lubing the stabilizer and the switches. It's a massive difference. In my opinion, I do believe that low profile keyboards typically operate and feel better with a tactile switch because the travel distance is so short and it would be beneficial to have that tactile sensation. So in this case, you would either choose the Gateron Brown or the Keychron Brown. And if you're someone who wants a silent typing experience like we just heard, any of the linear switches will do. And as mentioned before, since the optical switch keyboard is hot swappable, if you don't like linear switches at first, you can always buy a set of tactile switches and switch them out like Legos, and that's just the beauty of a hot swap mechanical keyboard. As for the keycaps, they are made from ABS plastic with a matte finish on the top, which means it is prone to getting sweat marks if you use it long enough. The bottom is translucent so that the LED can shine to the top of the keycap. One thing that's great about these keycaps is that they're not all parallel with each other like other low profile keyboards. Instead, you do get an incline, making the typing experience more similar to a traditional mechanical keyboard. You do get a couple of extra keycaps to make the keyboard a little more subtle and suitable for Mac or Windows. As for keycap compatibility, since both the Gateron and the Keychron low profile switches have MX stems, you can theoretically buy any keycap profile and it will fit with this keyboard. So from left to right, we have SA, OSA, OEM, Cherry, and XDA profiles. The only keycaps I won't recommend are the OEM keycaps because they actually hit the plate, so you'll end up with a very loud typing experience that's not very pleasant. Just make sure that when you're buying keycaps for this keyboard, which I doubt you will to be honest, and they're not DSA or XDA, make sure the set has the proper keycap heights for all the keys on the right side. Underneath our switches, we do have RGB LEDs available on this keyboard, and unfortunately they're not too bright, but they are sufficient. You have 5 levels of brightness, and despite the LEDs being on the PCB and the switch not doing much to enhance the effect, you still get a good amount of light to guide you when typing or gaming in the dark. There's a dedicated LED effect button on the top right where you can choose from a total of 19 different RGB effects. There's not much customizability on this keyboard, but you can change the brightness and the colors of these effects. Now let's talk about some other features. So this keyboard is very compatible with Mac. In fact, it's targeted a little more towards Mac users because people who use Apple computers are typically using the low profile switches found on their MacBooks or on their Magic keyboards. This keyboard also has all the corresponding Mac OS features found on an Apple keyboard. And even straight out of the box, the Mac keycaps are what's on the keyboard first. If you want to remap any of the switches, you can do that as well. Keychron doesn't have their own software just yet, but the remapping is supported through Carabiner if you're on Mac or Sharp Keys if you're on Windows. This keyboard also has a bunch of features like factory resets, disabling auto sleep, and changing from functions to multimedia keys if you're using it on a Mac. And last but not least, we have the price. For a measly $70 for the white backlit version or $80 for the RGB version, you're getting the whole package of a mechanical keyboard for less. You've got multi-device Bluetooth connectivity, RGB lighting, mechanical or optical switches, and you've got a compact layout. It's everything you need. And considering how the non-hot swap version is the same price as the hot swappable version, I definitely recommend you getting the hot swap version, and check out this video right here if you want to know why that's the case. Overall, this is a pretty awesome keyboard that we have here, especially for someone who needs to move around and uses a lot of devices at once. It's lightweight, so it's great for travel, and it has all the keys a person would typically need to work efficiently on a computer. Of course, if you're someone who needs to use a numpad, this is not the keyboard for you. You want to check out the Keychron K4. You're also getting a quiet typing experience, which would benefit anyone who's planning to use this in an office environment. If you're someone who's transitioning into a mechanical keyboard from a membrane keyboard or a laptop keyboard, this could potentially be the best one to get, especially if you're someone who's used to a MacBook keyboard or a Magic keyboard. So what do you guys think about the Keychron K3? Is it worth it? Are you getting the complete package of a mechanical keyboard? I personally think that you're getting a great deal for a competitive price. Links to buy the K3 and the Gateron Switch Puller will be in the description down below. Use my referral link to get 10% off your purchase. Let me know if I missed anything and I'll fill it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.